Good morning. Welcome to Love Letter to Grief. This stream is a little different from our traditional streams because on Sundays it's dedicated to a book that I wrote called Love Letter to Grief. If you guys are interested in finding this book, if you click on my bio, my YouTube link is on there. And we upload the videos every Sunday. Well, every Sunday we upload the video to YouTube. So if you miss a show or you want to go back and look at any of the past shows, that's where you can find all of the past shows. And also, if you link onto my Instagram page, you can find the actual link to my Amazon link to purchase the book, and as well as my merch as well. So the book is called Love Letter to Grief, Learning to Walk by Faith. And I wrote this book 4 years ago. Well, not 4 years ago. I've been a widow for 4.5 years. And I wrote the book 3.5 years ago. It was just, it started out as a love letter that I wrote to my husband the night after he passed away. I posted on Facebook, a lot of response from it. A lot of people reached out telling me how they felt like I really hit grief like head on, and it was helping a lot of people kind of process what was going on. And I would post things on Facebook anytime I was having a super, super tough emotional time. And slowly but surely, more people started to reach out. I was beginning to be connected with other people through friends and family members who were also going through grief. And people just started asking me if I was considering writing a book. So I wasn't initially thinking about writing one, but after looking at so many of the Facebook posts that I had wrote and the letters that I had wrote, I decided to put all the letters in a book and write a book to kind of help me, number one, process what I was going through. I wanted to have something to look back on to kind of make sense of what I was going through, because when it first happened, I did kind of initially feel like I was just kind of going through the motions. And so grief can be very, very tough. And I always tell people, if you write something down and look back at it, even when you think you haven't made any progress in your healing, you'll realize that you actually have. And so that's pretty much exactly why I wrote it. And when I started live streaming, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in the live streaming community, but I figured out pretty early on that I did want to do something related to grief, because I know there's a lot of people who are dealing with it. And of course, we were in the middle of a pandemic when I first got on this app, so it made perfect sense because people were dealing with grief on a level that we weren't really used to, um, from all angles. And so I have a guest every Sunday. They come on, they read their love letter to grief, and we just kind of listen to their story, because what better way to pay tribute to someone that we love and have lost than to pen a love letter to them and let everyone else in the world know just how amazing that person was. So our guest that we have today is more than enough. Trove is more than enough. He's going to come on and share his love letter with us. But first, we have, I'm going to show you guys my book trailer that I put out when I first. So we'll give him just a second to see if he can refresh and come back in. Then we'll go ahead and get started. So for everyone that's just coming in, welcome to Love Letter to Grief. Okay, so this app is acting weird because for a second I saw no comments, and then all the comments shut up at one time. So we're going to give him just a second to try to come back in. So let me just give you guys just a little bit of advice. So the show on Sundays is a little heavier because we are dealing with grief. You do hear somebody's story about losing someone they love very much. We do get a little emotional, but I will say if it gets too heavy for you guys, feel free to step away for a second. But I will encourage you, just try to stick it out, because even though it starts out a little heavy, it normally always ends with us feeling really, really good about everything that we're kind of listening to and going through. So that is something I would like to tell you guys. When More Than Enough is reading his letter, if you feel yourself getting like too emotional, it'll be okay. So we're going to try him again and see if it's working.
On May 6, 2017, I lost my husband. That sounds so innocuous, doesn't it? I lost my husband. As if somehow I misplaced him. As if I set him down somewhere and forgot to pick him back up. As if I let him out of my sight and forgot the last place I saw him. The truth is, I didn't lose my husband. He died. People always say to me, I don't know how you do this. They don't know just how close you and I have grown. Faith, you are how I push through. Faith, you are how I am okay. Faith, you are the reason I did not give up. Without you, I would have allowed myself to fall short of God's glory. Without you, I would not have trusted God, and what a scary, lonely place that would be. Faith, you are the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. But you are also the source of power and strength that I never knew I needed so much. My faith in God, His promises, His word, are the answers to how I survived this chapter of my life. Without my faith in God, the story would have ended far worse. The pages of my life would have read quite differently. But with my faith, I will continue to push through, because although the grief journey is tough, I also know I will never walk it alone. This is my love letter to you, about my feelings for you, a letter to not giving up, not giving in, and learning to walk by faith every step of the way. May the lessons I've learned, the stories I've shared, and the letters I've written be an inspiration to that broken heart I experienced the day I lost my husband. May my heartbreak be a source of light to help another broken heart find its way out of the darkness that grief creates.
Thank you. Okay, so that was just my book trailer to my book. Again, the book is called Love Letter to Grief, Learning to Walk by Faith. You can find it on Amazon. You can also click on the link on my bio. My YouTube link is on there. All the shows are uploaded to there each week. So if there's a show you wanted to watch and weren't here, or if you just see one that you really enjoyed or it was helpful to you, or you want to pass on to someone that's grieving, you can definitely just send them to my YouTube link. We do have our guest today, which is Troll is More Than Enough. So whenever you're ready, you can request the box and we'll go ahead and get started. I do typically read like one of my letters from my book, and just to kind of get us started, so I will do that. Let's see. So this is one of the entries from my book. It's called Dear Grief. No matter what I try to do, think, feel, hope for, talk about, read, pray, cling to, or buy, my heart will always know several dates that changed everything I ever thought I knew. Heartbreaks and disappointments won't break me, but they will forever shape me. It's like shattered pieces of my soul are wandering around the universe, and different people are collecting them, trying to help restore them. Ever feel like you're handing certain pieces of your soul to people, hoping for them to hold on to it so that one day you can feel whole again? Some of the people that you trust with your heart will also try to destroy it. Certain holders of those pieces are so busy breaking the fragments to hurt you on a deeper level. I feel like maybe a part of grief, the grief's journey and life lessons reveal to you certain people that should be rooting for you but may not be. These are one of the hardest lessons that I've had to learn. That death can tear apart a lot of people left behind. Sometimes the very people that you would swear your life on would stand beside you are the very ones to add to the heartache. The very people that you knew that you could depend on become a stranger and you no longer recognize them. All that's left of me is the ones who I know truly do love me. Grief can cause you to be bogged down in hurt and sadness and anger and the pain of losing all that you ever had. And it is those who are standing beside you, surrounding you, who are keeping you from going under. For me, this new ideal of being rebirthed into finding out who's really there for me has been very meaningful. I think the toughest thing about grief is understanding that while I feel like I'm so alone, understanding that there's tons of people there willing to help me. Although you seem like everyone that you thought would be there has left, you have to cling to the one thing that you will always have beside you, and that is your faith. Because when walking through this grief journey, the one person that's going to help you the most is going to be yourself. And I wrote that because I remember there were times where I would be going through grief and I would feel like there were certain people I thought that should have been there that weren't. There are certain people I feel like should have gotten it that didn't. But I think that grief can make you sometimes feel like it can isolate you more so than you actually are. But for me, the thing that kept me the most sane was my faith. So I always tell people, don't depend on particular people to help you through the journey, because that they may not be able to. And everyone's not super spiritual. So I don't want to say if you don't have faith that you just can't heal through it. But I'll just say for me, that was the most important thing. So that was just one of my entries from my book. And I'm going to bring on our guest today, and he's going to read his letter. Okay, let's try. Okay, so more than enough. Can you try the box again? I don't know what's happening. Okay.
You don't got nothing to be apologizing for. It's not like you said, I can't see you. Oh, okay. Am I starting?
Yes, you can start.
Okay.
If you want to introduce yourself first, you can, and you want to tell us who the
Y'all
letter
know me, I'm Troll.
Well, everyone does it, so.
No, everybody should. I am Troll. I am reading my letter to grief, and it's about my dad, who I lost 4 years ago. He died 4 years ago.
What date did he pass?
August 12th, 2017. And that's my dad.
Oh.
It's rare. But dear grief, my life was good, real good. I was blessed and highly favored. I love God. He loved me. And then my father died. I was angry, and everything I worked hard for felt like it was worthless. I was dazed and confused when God told me that he would take my father. And yes, he told me. So my dad called me early one morning before I was headed off to work to ask for some medicine. First of all, my dad does not call me, and he definitely does not call me for help, because he's the person that everyone calls for help. Dad, I need you. He's there. Sometimes Dad, I remember I called my dad once because I had a flat tire. I was downtown. I know how to change a tire. I'm fine. I just was like, hey, Dad, might be a little late. Got a flat tire. My dad was downtown Chicago with me changing a flat tire. Like, that's the type of person he was.
Mm-hmm.
You call him for help. So my dad called me that morning. I rushed to him with Pepto-Bismol because he had a stomach ache, which I thought it was a stomach ache. My dad was bent over in pain and assured me it was gas. He took the Pepto-Bismol. He told me to go to work and not to miss class. I was in grad school at the time. I got into my car, and God told me right then and there I would lose my father. And I didn't know when. I didn't know that this would be a year of my dad fighting cancer. For the next year, my dad fought with the strength of some super being, because he was my own personal superhero, grasping on to life as cancer destroyed his body. Now that I think back, I was very angry during that time. Angry at God. I was angry at God, and I cursed him and I fought him. And I was just so angry because how could he do this to me? Like, to me, in my head, I had the perfect family. We were one. It's us four and no more. That was my dad saying. That was his answer to, can so-and-so spend the night? No, it's us four and no more. So yes, I was angry because I was accustomed for over 30 years of us four and no more. My mom, my dad, my sister, me. I'm the fourth. But now that I think back, I was blessed that my father even lived long enough to see me complete grad school.
Mhm.
Um, and he did. He really fought. And I know a lot of people say that, oh, they wish that they could say goodbye to their loved one when they're sick. No, you don't want that. It is excruciating to see someone so full of life be just a shell of themselves.
Mhm.
So when my dad died, he was in hospice at home because my mom said that he would not die anywhere but at his house that he worked his butt off to pay for. Uh, but he, oh, okay. So I'm trying to find on my way back.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyway, I had went on a tangent anyway. Oh, but anyway, now that I think back, I was blessed that my father lived long enough to see me complete grad school. Education was very important to him. Uh, my father, he attended Jackson State College, Sonic Boom, go to South, where you could have went trouble, but you didn't. But he did not complete. I had spent 4 years grieving my father, thinking I never made him proud. And then I finally realized on all my arguments with God, my screaming matches. By the way, one way screaming makes you seem crazy, but necessary. I finally realized that my dad was proud of me, and it wasn't for anything that I accomplished career wise or educational wise. He just loved his family. He did. For 4 years, I went through all the emotions towards God, mostly anger. Uh, and I finally realized that I was blessed, that I should have been thanking God. I really did. I finally realized after my last argument with God, passionate
Mhm.
argument. He's heard words that probably no one has ever talked to him that way. My bad, God. Um, I finally realized that I was blessed to have this amazing man to call father, the amazing man who encouraged me, who loved me, who showed me how to love and forgive. That's my dad. That's my letter. Boom.
Mhm.
He was amazing. My dad, he really was amazing. He was, played catch with me. He was my best winged man ever. Okay, let me tell you, ever. I got my first phone number at the movie theaters with my dad by my side. And when he was in the hospital, he would be trying to hook me up with these nurses. No, and they was going. I was like, yo, if my dad is creeping you out, like, let me know. They're like, no, he's fine. Like, they loved my dad, the entire hospital. Like, he was able to change his rooms because
Mhm.
for a better view, because he's downtown in the hospital,
Oh
because
wow.
loved him. And that was like his spirit was just love. And if you came in contact with him, you loved him. Uh,
Mhm.
my mom is not like that.
Mhm.
But my dad, he's like warm and embracing, and like my mom don't like sick people. So so it was amazing to see my mom take care of my dad because
Mhm.
that was love.
Wow. You said a lot in your letter that really stuck out to me. Um, One thing you said was, well, a couple of things, but one thing for sure that kind of stuck out was you mentioned how a lot of people always say they wish they had a chance to say their final goodbyes to someone, like they would help their grieving process. And I always tell people, I've talked to so many people who go through grief, and I don't care how it hits you, everybody's way, they wish it could be different. So it's interesting to hear you say that if you that saying the goodbye was hard.
saying the goodbye was very hard. And let me just tell you, like my dad, he literally died like something you would see on the TV.
Mm,
Everyone gathered around his bed, his deathbed,
mm,
as he passed away. And my mom played his one of his favorite songs.
wow.
He was passing. It was "Order My Steps,"
Mm,
and he was passing on to the other side. So it was like a movie, but it's excruciating. It was excruciating. So no, I don't wish that. Like saying goodbye. Yeah, I knew my dad had that he would die for a year.
mhm,
He had stage 4 pancreatic cancer,
mhm.
but it was horrific. It was like, no, you don't want that. It's like I'm not saying that it would be better if he would have taken in an instance. I don't think it's a better way to die. Personally, it's like, to lose
You're gonna,
someone you love. It's never gonna. I've lost people many different ways, but no,
mhm.
it's never a one way that say, oh yeah, that's a great way to die. It's like, no, it's not.
Right. And so I found it interesting that you mentioned that as you left your dad, that God told you he that is really interesting because I remember going through some things that I felt like God was preparing me for it. And I always, when I hear people say that, I think number one, you must have such a relationship with God that He would allow you such a such a delivery of something like that.
No.
So, but it's one of those. I don't know about you, but for me, it was one of the things that conflicted me because I felt so blessed in one sense that I knew, and then I felt just destroyed in another sense that I even had to go through it. So I would be grieving and upset, but then feeling blessed that I kind of had a heads up. So how did that him telling you help you with it?
It did not help because I I'm a I'm a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. So I always knew that God gave me a spiritual gift, and that was one of
Mhm,
my gifts. That sometimes He tells me things I don't
mhm,
want to know. I don't, some of them I don't care to know, but He does. So I don't think I think it helped me in a way that I wasn't in a mental institution when my dad died, because
mhm,
that's how big of an impact my dad dying on my family was.
mhm,
Like, and not just my immediate family, but
mhm,
extended family. Like, I still see some of his friends, and they still talk about him. People at church still talk about him
mhm.
because that's how impactful he was. Like, if you met him, you'd be like, wow. Like, people just be like, wow. Like, my friends, like, oh, Mr. Troll is awesome. you know, but, but he just made an impact on people, and was able to touch people all different backgrounds.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess it maybe helped because I was always expecting for the other shoe to drop. But
Mhm,
during that year of him fighting cancer or whatever, you know, I mean, only fight he ever lost. I'm telling you. But no, that year, I don't know. I really don't know how. Maybe it helped, maybe it didn't. I just
mhm.
don't know. But I
Yeah.
remember telling my godmom. My godmom was the only person I could talk to because my sister was going through it. My mom was going through it, and my dad was the actual person dying.
Mhm,
So it's not like, I didn't have that's I think that was probably what hurt the most is I didn't really have my family, the people that I depended on for everything. We didn't have each other because we was all dealing with it
mhm.
in our certain different ways. And my sister is not going to talk about it. My sister will
Yeah.
never talk about it. My mom just was dealing with so much. That was the person she's been with since she was 18. So
Mhm.
it's not like I could lean on my mom. She needed someone to lean on. So she leaned
Right.
on my sister, who is silent. And if my sister got my mom, then she ain't got enough shoulder for me. So I talked to my godmom, which was a blessing. And I would just be telling her, I was like, no, something else is gonna happen, because we went through this year of my dad being sick. It's like he would get better, it would seem like it was better, then it's back to the hospital. So, so I don't know if it helped me, but it didn't hurt me.
Yeah. It's interesting. The letter that I chose today was explaining about how isolated grief can make you feel, and how sometimes the people you think you can depend on, it's like everyone's going through their own thing.
Yeah.
And of course, it just makes perfect sense. It's like it's your mom, and it's like you all lost the same person, but you all didn't lose the same person.
Right.
And I have to remind people of that, like, sometimes you can lose someone and it hurts you on a different level, but you have to realize that was not the same person he was to them. So while you're grieving the father, it's like you say, your mom has been with him since she was 18. I was like, that's over half of her life. And so it's such a different loss for her. And even if you both know how amazing he was, you're still grieving somebody completely different.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And now my mom, we talk about it, and it's so much better to talk about it now. And my mom, she's experiencing dating life again, so it's quite amazing. It's quite amazing. And she always says, she was like, yeah, I'll never love anyone like I love them. Like,
how was that for you? I mean, of course you're an adult, so it's, I don't know. Like,
I don't know. I signed my mom up for the dating website myself, because I know, like, I just knew my dad, and I was like, well, you should not feel any type of way, because my dad would want all of us to go on. I think my dad would be so disappointed that it has taken about 4 years of us grieving. I think he would be so disappointed. That wasn't the spirit of my dad. My dad was like, live life to the fullest. So he would actually be like, oh damn. And my mom said that, when he found out that he had cancer, first thing he said was, oh, my children. And she said, what about me, motherfucker? But, and I did think, my dad knew that we would take it hard. My sister and I would take it hard. So, but I think he'll be okay now. It's like, okay, we're getting it together.
Yeah.
I mean, it was COVID.
Right. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It felt like it just all just went together. It's like Dad died COVID. I mean, to me, it just all feels like one horrible day.
Yeah. Facts. Yeah. I think, I talk about it all the time. It's like, you can lose. I mean, I know a lot of us, maybe, I don't know if that was your first loss. I lost my grandfather prior to my husband passed away, and my favorite uncle a year before that. So those deaths were super tough, because my grandfather was like my dad. But it's like there's loss, and then there's the loss. And that's what really challenges and shapes us, because losing like that person is just one of those things that it's almost, there's no way you can, like, come out the same person, because it's just going to be, it's that huge of a loss. Did you go to any grief counseling or anything?
No, I didn't. I probably should have, but I didn't. I didn't. I remember my godmother saying, maybe you should go to grief counseling. And I said, you crazy. So nobody ever mentioned that again to me, because I don't know, for some reason it just didn't sit right with me. I was like, well, you crazy. And I was like, well, I won't talk to you no more. Because I thought she was basically saying, like, she didn't, in my head, in my grieving, brain, is said, okay, I'm tired of you talking to me, talk to somebody else. I was like, well, you crazy. And then it was a whole issue. It was a whole issue. I was like, well, I won't talk to her no more.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't. Maybe I should have, but I'm fine now, so it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, you
And I don't
mentioned.
have anything against counseling. I should say that my undergrad is in psychology, so I don't
Mhm.
have anything against counseling. I just didn't. I just process it my way.
Yeah. So you mentioned about you and your arguments with God, which I thought was kind of funny because I definitely had that. And I can relate to it because it's like you have such a relationship with him. You're like, wait a minute, hold on. Now let's come here.
Right. Come here. Exactly. It's like, yo, God, like, what you doing?
Right. This is us. This is what's happening. So yeah, it can definitely be overwhelming. So did you feel like those conversations, the tough arguments and conversations helped you grieve or helped you
Yeah.
process it better?
Oh, definitely. That is
Right. The I thought we were better than that talk, that part.
right. Exactly. It was like, listen here, like, yo, big God. And basically, and that is how I talk to God, by the way. That is my personal prayers to God is something else. It's like I'm talking to you, like, listen, homie, what I need from you is like, do
Right.
I praise you? Do I not praise you, God? Do I not give you the glory? Like, why you giving me this? Like, I don't understand this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I really do think that really did help my grieving process is because even though I was angry with God and yes, I hated God at one point, I still talked to him because I still
Mhm.
knew who's in control. It's like, so yeah, I think that definitely helped my grieving process.
Mhm. So did you ever have any type of visitation dreams from your dad or anything like that that you feel like helped or anything?
I I had one, I seen my dad once and it was pretty soon after he passed,
Mhm.
and he told me to let go, and
Mhm.
that's the only thing. Yes, he told me to let go. He said let go, and I think because I was still holding on so tight to him,
Mhm.
and that's the only thing. It wasn't that damn comforting, and I wish I could see him again. He
Mhm.
has not appeared. And I have
Wow.
very vivid dreams, so that's why I'm like, dude, where you at? Um, but no, I haven't seen him again. But he told me he came very soon after he passed in my dreams, and he told me to let go because I
Mhm.
think I was holding on to him too tight.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you feel like well, it was there anything that someone did for you during the grief process early on that stood out to you?
Yes, my friends, God bless them. They damn near were camped in my house. And two, I remember remarking to my sister, I don't know why they won't go home. And then she was like, it's like, dude, you realize what just happened. Then I realized like, oh, that's them being there for me. And I thought that was that I really liked that. I was at that point I was tired of them and I was like, and I let them know, I was like, I appreciate y'all. Y'all can
Mhm.
go. It's like I don't need to see y'all every night. I would see them every day. We would hang out, drink wine. They drink my bar empty. I tell you that much. So still empty. I'm serious. It's still empty from them. But they was there for me, and in just a different type of way. And I appreciate that. I did, and I
Yeah.
told them, I say, listen, I appreciate y'all. Go home. I want to see y'all next weekend. I would see them every. I swear it was every day I would see them, and that meant a lot. Though. That did mean a lot.
That's good that you have that because I know a lot of people talk about initially after the main, like the actual planning of the funeral and the funeral happens. A lot of people say, you know, like within like the first week, it really starts slowing down. And because for us, we've had a huge loss, but for everyone else, their life is pretty normal. So it's good that you still have people that were coming around and didn't just run away, didn't go back to normal too soon.
No,
So that's good.
maybe. And my best friend had lost a father. He
Oh
lost
wow. So
his
he under.
father maybe a couple years before me. And that the
Mhm.
only thing that I think about is like I don't know if I was there for him like he was there for me.
Right.
Because I didn't have that experience of losing a father
Exactly.
there. So I really
Hmm.
didn't know. I didn't know like hands off. I need fresh. I just didn't know what to do for him. I was like,
Right.
man, I hope I was there or he realized that I was there for him. But I don't know. And I haven't had that conversation with him. But I think
Hmm.
I will because
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I think I might have dropped that as a friend. I might have dropped that ball because I just didn't know because I had my dad. That was foreign to me when his dad died. I'm like, wait, our parents now? Like we that age now? It's like that's how I thought. Like, damn, we that age now? And
Yeah.
then maybe 2 years later, I lost my father. So yeah.
That's really interesting that you observed that. And I think that's maybe something we all need to acknowledge. Like empathy is one thing, but actually, like I always tell people, like I've lost a husband, you lost a dad. There's different relationships that are just so different. It's like you can relate to the loss, but the actual relationship of the loss is different. So the fact that you recognize that you were there, but it's like you say you never lost a dad, so it was different. You don't
Yeah,
really know what to do or what to say because it's one of those things you can't really be prepared for.
exactly.
So, but I'm sure now when someone loses a dad or a mom, you have a little bit more to kind of offer that person.
Yeah, yeah, I do. But yeah, at that time, it's just was like I didn't know. And his dad, like mine, uh, long illness, and he
Hmm.
finally passed away. And his dad was very active in his life, just like mine. Like we had the dads that would go up to school and take you on field trips. Like the neighborhood knew our dads.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I was very close with his family. Like I go to his family reunions, he go to my family reunions. Like that's how
Yeah.
close we are. Yeah, but I don't know if I was there for him in the way that he needed. I'm not sure. That's a conversation I will have one day over beers.
Hmm. So, is there anything that you feel like was like a pivotal moment in your grief journey that helped you more than anything else?
Mm, no, I don't. I don't. It was long. I
Hmm.
did not. I've never imagined. I've lost a lot of people. A lot of people. I've lost childhood friend,
Hmm.
grandparents. By the time my dad passed, I done lost aunties and cousins and just so many. I
Hmm.
never thought that my grief process with my dad would be so long.
Hmm.
It was like I felt like Coretta Scott King, uh, because I swear she mourned his death till she died, and I was like, oh my god, and I was like, why am I still crying?
Hmm.
Like, why am I still feeling this emotion? It's like, yes, he was alive. Like, I knew, like, and I'm like, I'm educated. Okay. He was alive. He died. He's dead for especially like the second year, and you're still just puddles of tears. And I'm not a big emotional person. So, yeah, it was confusing. I'm like, okay, why is this? But it's
Hmm.
because he meant so much to me.
Right.
But yeah, nothing helped. No, nothing helped. I guess the conversations with God, me just
Hmm.
screaming for three
Yeah.
years, and it
But it's
took me 3 years.
right. But it's like I talk about all the time. When you have a loss that is that large, it's not something that's going to be a easy give you 2 weeks and you'll be better. Like
Right.
you can't be. It's almost impossible to be. I don't even like to use the word better because for me, I don't even think there's going to be an ending to my grief,
Yeah.
and I've accepted that because
Right.
there's just some loves that you have that just you can't get over it. And it's like I tell people, no, grief is the price we pay for loving someone. The more you love someone, the harder you're going to grieve that person. And
Yeah.
so I like that you said that, because it really gives a honest perspective to people. Because a lot of people come to say, oh, it's going to be okay, you'll be better.
Yeah.
And I don't like to scare people, but I feel like there's false hope, because the reality is you're gonna you're gonna become craftier. You're gonna learn ways to deal with it, and you're gonna find cute little ways to process it faster, so you're not in a puddle every single day. But there's gonna be those, yeah, you're gonna find a new normal. But it's just that a loss like that is just, it's too impactful.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's not a time frame. I think society sometimes wants us to put a time frame on healing, and we may do it to ourselves. Like, oh, 6 months, you should be better.
Right.
And then you find yourself, on the 4-year anniversary, you wake up in a puddle. You're like, how am I back to square one? But it's because grief is just a non-ending cycle. It's just the waves. You never know when you're gonna be taken under, when you're gonna be able to come back up for breath. It's just a ending.
Waves, though. I read this early on in my grief process. I read this. Ooh, Will. That was real close. It was real close. But I read this. I don't know. It was in a poem. It was something on Reddit, and it was like this old man talking about grief and the weight of grief, and that really did it. I would wish I had it. I don't have it anymore. But it was just how in the beginning the waves are big. It feels like you're barely holding on. But at the end, towards the end of your grief, as you're healing, the waves, they still come not as often, not as hard. And I really identified with that, because that's how it felt like my grief process. Like in the beginning, it was like, I think I can hold on.
Right.
Till now it's like every now and then I'll get just the wave of grief, but I can hold on and make it through. Shed some tears. I did. Catch you later. And yeah.
But the thing is, I've prepared myself to, just from what I've read and understood and talked to people, and what you said is spot on. But the thing for me is, like, I had to realize that even when I was further out, sometimes I would be hit by one of those waves that felt like one of the early on waves. And I used to be so confused. Like, I remember I woke up one morning and I was just like, especially my birthday. Like, my birthday was 1 year. Like, my husband passed 1 year after my birthday. 1 week after my birthday. So my first birthday after that, I remember waking up thinking, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be like, it's 1 year. I should be good. And I woke up that morning just feeling so devastated. Like, how in the world am I feeling like I'm at the morning of the funeral a year later? But it's like, it just does. It's just a cycle. So for me, it was just understanding that, allowing myself to have those moments. Because sometimes we get so hard on ourselves, like, oh, you should be stronger than this. You're smart. Like you just said, you're smart, you're educated, you're God-fearing. You know what life and death is about. Like, get over it. You can say that to your brain, but to your heart, it's just completely different.
I totally agree. And so I'd be like, okay, you smart. Wait a minute. This don't make sense. This is me talking to myself. Like, listen, it don't make sense. It's like, then I'd be like, okay, Daddy want this. He'd be like, yo, what the fuck you doing up in my bed? My dad, he cursed a lot too. He cursed a lot. Hey, what the hell you doing, son? You still crying? Oh, you love me that much. Love you too, son. All right, move on with your life. Like, that's like, I can hear my dad saying that to me. Like, okay, move on. What's next? What's next? Like, that was his thing. What's next? Like, oh, Dad, look, I graduated college. Okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Proud of you, son. What's next? What's next? I'm going to take a break there. What's next? So that's what I always hear in my head is what's next. And I think that's what also helped me keep moving. It's like, okay, what's next?
Right. So if there's someone that's in the stream that's going through grief, what's just a couple of things, a couple of bits of advice that you would give them?
I don't have much advice. If you're spiritual, keep doing whatever it is, whether you talk to God or Buddha, whoever you talk to, keep talking to them. Even if you're angry at them, keep talking to them. Also, don't put a time frame on it. And remember, just because your loved one died, the world will keep turning.
Man.
So the world will keep turning. You can't stop living your life, and don't feel guilty about living your life.
Yeah.
If that person was there, they would still be living their life,
Right.
And I think that was the thing for me. I stopped a lot of stuff. It was like my dad died. Stop. I didn't know what to do. I was like just stuck there, like, okay, I'm not sure what's next. But go off to the next thing. What's next?
Right.
That would be my biggest advice: is what's next. Find out what's next and do it.
Yeah. And I remember that you said that about how life continues. I remember thinking about that. It's like for you, it's like you're in the middle of Times Square and it's like everything stops. But you see all these lights and movements and people and everything. You're thinking, how in the world is everything around me moving and this is what's happening to me? But you have to remind yourself that it's only happening to you. And I used to get like upset at certain people, and I was thinking like I would check myself like so quick, like they did not lose this. This was not their loss. This is not their journey. This is not their story. So for everybody else, you know, life keeps moving, and you're just kind of sitting here left to process your emotions. So that's spot on.
Like the toughest thing for me was like getting invited to like a party like 1 week after I'm like, really?
Wow.
Y'all partying?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, y'all partying. Y'all know what just happened? And then I'm like, oh, wait.
Right.
You're dead. Like, and so I usually host the family reunion every year. I remember my dad was sick during that time, and one of my cousins like, hey, having a family reunion this year. I'm like, what is wrong with you? And I cursed that girl something so bad. She never asked about a family reunion again, I tell you that much. But I had to realize that that's my dad. That's something I was going through. They, still, I don't know, it was still. I'm like, wait, if I host a family reunion, if my dad said, you think I'm going to be partying with y'all? I don't know.
Yeah. It could be, definitely could be tough. And I think it just changes the way you do most things. Like most traditions that you have are they're altered because that I'm sure your dad was such a huge part of all of those traditions.
Yes. Yeah. He was the one that
are there
people.
No, what did you say?
Oh, I said, yeah, he's the one that actually liked people. I don't like people that much.
So, are there new traditions that you've created for yourself after your dad passed? Or
no. Well, most of the traditions, except for family reunions, really not my thing. Most of them are the same. Christmas is the same. We still go over to mom's house. It used to be mom and dad, Just way better when my dad was alive, so I know who's picking now.
You expect everyone else to be upset too, but others also have to understand it'll take time for you to get back to yourself. Yeah, for sure. But in my philosophy on getting back to yourself is you won't get back to yourself. I think that was one of the most pivotal things for me during my grief process was understanding, because I kept trying to search for my old self. Like, Lord, at what point can I get back to me? And once I realized that I wasn't, I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes more sense. So I was understanding that I needed to find my new self. That was very, very, very important for me.
Oh yeah, that is, you never get back to your old self because that person is gone. Because you have so much more experience now, and it shapes how you view things, and it forever change.
I think it took me about thank you so much, Steph, for that. Yeah, I'm not getting excited about gifts. Thank you so much. I think for me, I was, like I say, it was at my birthday, the morning I woke up, devastated that I was still at that point. I went to my grief counselor the next week, and I was talking to her about how upset and disappointed I was. Like this whole buildup of this entire year, I had convinced myself that I was going to wake up and be the old me, because I had told myself it takes 1 year. In 1 year, you're going to cycle through every season, every event, and you're going to be back to your old self. And when she explained to me how that doesn't happen, I was like, man, I just spent the last year of my life going through something that I shouldn't have gone, like just trying to process it that way. So that was the one thing for me I wish somebody told me early on. Like I wish someone had told me week 1, listen, let that person go. You are not going to be that person. Let's find the new you. And I think it would have been so much more beneficial for me.
Now, luckily, I never looked for the old me because I had a lot of experience with death and with grief. Mm-hmm. So I knew I was like, okay, yeah, old me. I do look back on times. I'm like, damn, mm-hmm. I didn't realize that then that was the time of my life. I was having the time of my life, and I was having the time of my life. Everything was good. I had a great job. I was in grad school, and I partied every night. So my dad was alive. I partied. I was out in the streets partying.
Okay, so
then he died, and I stopped partying.
Yeah,
serious. Life was good.
So, you said something else that I wanted to ask you about. And you say your sister doesn't talk about it at all.
No, at all. Still to this day, at all.
Wow.
And my sister talks a lot, but not about. Yeah, so we talk about anything, but my sister never talked about death. That was one thing. Like my dad would be like, okay, like. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. Nobody was sick, and my sister would leave out rooms. She does not talk about that. That's one thing she doesn't talk about.
Bless her. If you guys are just coming in, we're having my show is called Love Letter to Grief. The show is catered around. I wrote a book. I'm a widow. I've been a widow for 4.5 years. That's why I was asking you about the time frame with your dad, because it was pretty close. Like the time frame was pretty close. But there was a rabbi that said something to the effect, when someone dies, it's like the destruction of the world that the person in it no longer exists, and we no longer know what the world with that person in it, that world is. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you done with me, or am I still?
You're in a hurry? You're in a hurry to leave?
No, I'm not in a hurry. No.
Okay. No.
I don't want to overstay.
No, you're. No, the show is for you. So, okay, tell us this, because the reason I want people to come on the show and read their love letter is I want people to understand, number one, a lot of these losses helped make us who we were. Like these relationships with these people help shape the people that we are. So what is the one thing you want us in the world to know about your dad? Because they're not just their death. They were the person that we loved so much prior to that. So what would that be?
Oh, I think the one thing to know about he was he was a fool, a loving fool. He was a comedian. He made you laugh. He made you feel good about yourself. He gave everybody nicknames. That was, I mean, I got a cousin that's 6'2". It's a woman, and Dad nicknamed her Fifi, like Fifi, the giant, and she loves that nickname. And when she had a kid, he named him Faux Fum.
Oh,
and she loves it. And he gave people nicknames, and they loved their nicknames, and they just loved him. He made you feel good about yourself. Like meeting him, you're like, man, I feel really good about myself. It's like he was like, I don't know. Something amazing. He was something amazing. He really was. He truly was. And that's all I can say. It's like he was amazing. He was like he was the perfect dad. He was. To me, perfect dad. I can't think of anything he could have did better. It's like he should improve on nothing. Perfect. Yeah. He's really warm. Like as tough as he was, and like my dad whooped my but because of
Mhm.
school and stuff when I was little. But he was very like warm and loving. So even though he could whoop you, he would, he still was the one that, you cuddle in the bed with or something like that. He was just really warm.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so in closing, do you want to reread your letter or do you want to just send me a copy of it?
Mm, I I can reread it. I'll get through it faster this time.
Okay. Because I know that the show got cut off and there may be some people who didn't hear it. And I think it was such a good letter. I would like people to hear it if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. Who want to start? Five, four, three, two, one, and action. Okay. Dear Grief, my life was good, real good. I was blessed and highly favored. I love God and He loved me. And then my father died. I was angry, and everything I worked hard for felt like it was worthless. I was dazed and confused when God told me He would take my father. Yes, He told me. My dad called me early one morning before I was headed off to work to ask for some medicine. My dad never calls me. He never calls anyone, but definitely not before work. He was the caretaker. If anyone was sick, he was the one you called when you needed help. I rushed over to my parents' house, and my parents live a walk 5 minutes, drive 2 minutes. I made it there less than 60 seconds with Pepto Bismol. Pepto could not help him. My dad was bent over in excruciating pain, and he assured me it was gas. He told me to go to work, not to miss school, class. I was in grad school. I got into my car, and God told me I would lose my father. For the next year, my dad fought with the strength of some super being, some superhero, my own personal superhero, grasping onto life as cancer destroyed his body. Now that I think back, I was blessed that my father lived long enough to see me complete grad school. Education was so important to him. He attended Jackson State, but did not complete. Um, I have spent 4 years grieving my father, thinking I never made him proud. I finally realized that he was proud of me, and it wasn't for anything that I accomplished, not career wise or educational wise. He just loved his family. For 4 years, I went through all the emotions towards God, mostly anger. I finally realized that I was blessed to have this amazing man to call Father, the amazing being who encouraged me, who loved me, and showed me how to love and forgive. That's my letter.
Oh, I just love you. I appreciate you for coming on the show. Um, it's like I talk about all the time. We never know who we are in contact with on this app. We never know the lives we are meant to cross and why. And I just want to encourage all of us on this app to treat each other kindly. You never know who's walking in your stream. You never know what people are dealing with. You guys see more than enough smile and laugh and act crazy and keep us having the best time in streams. And, under all of that, there's still a person that is healing and processing, losing someone who meant the world to him. So I love having this show just because it just reminds me that we're all connected in ways that we don't really appreciate, don't really necessarily understand until it happens. So that was a beautiful letter. Thank you for writing it. I know it was tough.
Having me, and thank you for telling me to write this letter, because this letter was so healing. That's why I did not cry this when I wrote it. I cried a lot writing it, and then since I wrote it, I felt so much better. Like even when I reread it this morning, because I was like, I'm not going to embarrass myself. Let me reread this and see what I wrote. And yeah, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I know y'all be thinking I'd be crazy trying to challenge y'all to write these letters, but when I was going through counseling, my counselor she constantly told me that if you can write it down, it's something that at least you have to look back on. Bye. Thank you so much. And so if you write something today and you reread it a year from now, even though you don't see the progress that you're making, that letter will help remind you that you are making some progress. Because the grief journey is tough. It's very long, but, just one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, one moment at a time, I think, it makes it easier to process it and get through it. So if you want to be on the show and you've lost someone, it doesn't have to necessarily be someone that passed away. Like I was explaining to Miss M, Jilly came on the show a while back and read her love letter to Luke, because she has lupus. And listening to her letter, I never forget it. It gave me goosebumps, because there was so much that she talked about that I could feel I could literally feel it. It was the same exact emotions. So if you want to come on the show, you've lost someone, you're going through, like I said, she has lupus. I know Miss M says she has chronic illness. If you want to come on the show, Miss Me on IG, travel_bay_meet me. And yes, Jilly's story it was everybody that comes on and shares their story. I know I love y'all, but it makes me appreciate and see you guys in such a different light. And more than enough is going to take me out. So I'm probably going to end my stream and just have a whole moment. But it was very, very good, because I do encourage, especially the men, to, allow themselves to go through their emotions, be honest, transparent, because I feel the only way we can help each other heal through grief is being transparent. I don't want anyone to ever look at me and say, oh, Travel Bay has it all together. She's figured out this grief thing and she's got it mastered. No, like I'm still having my moments. I still cry. I still wake up some mornings and literally feel like I am going through every single emotion that I was going through in day one. But by being transparent, my prayer is the next person that has to go through it, something they've heard from me or someone on the show will resonate and it will help them process it. So that's my prayer. So, oh yeah, you did read it during your show, but I think, and you guys would actually be amazed to understand, like sometimes you don't even realize you're grieving, because there's certain things that, like Cece talked about, she had a miscarriage and she was like, am I able to write a letter about that? Like, yes, that is a huge loss. That's still something that you need to grieve and process. I mean, like this past year, I know I'm not the only person whose entire life was flipped upside down as an event planner. I grieve the life that I was living prior to COVID. Like there's certain things that happen that shift us and we have to grieve those things. And so whether it be losing someone, and just pile on losses and add the pandemic to it. It's just like, wow, like we're all just processing and doing the best we can. But by being transparent, being there for each other, being kind to each other, my prayer is that we can all go through the grief journey a little bit easier. So I appreciate you guys for being here, and thank you very much. So that concludes the show. So don't forget, if you want to find the book, it's on my